Cybersecurity demystified. Yeah. When we prepped for this, honestly, guys, I never anticipated the complexity, but also how important the subject is, you know. And firstly, thank you for being on the panel and for sharing your insights. You're all experts in the field. So without further ado, I'm going to ask you, if I can ask Khalil and Asanda, would you mind switching your cameras off? I know you guys will be monitoring the chat for me, which will be great. And then Benny, Camille, and Reshenn, if you guys can keep your cameras on. And let's start with Camille, intro from you, Reshenn from you, and then to Benedict. And then we'll kick into the session. And remember those tough questions. Thanks, guys.
100%. Thank you very much, Linda, for the introduction. It's a great pleasure to be hosting quite a lot of different caliber people from different industries. My name is Camille Vashram. I am the product lead at Impactful Specialist Solutions, and some would say I'm a cybersecurity specialist, but the gentlemen on the call are actually the experts, and I always lean towards them for the knowledge and the know-how. So yeah, that's definitely me in a nutshell. Over to you, Reshenn.
Thank you, Kamil. All right, so yes, my name is Roshan Devner. Don't try to pronounce the surname. I actually wear a couple of hats. So I actually come out of a systems integrator environment from a technical and business perspective. I am currently the country director for a company called EC Council, which is the top global organization that enables cybersecurity skills across the globe, especially with militaries and governments around the world and banks as well. I also wear another hat where I am an advisor from a skills perspective for the Chartered CIO Council of South Africa, and I'm also a digital enablement specialist within the IT space.
Thank you, Reshenn, and thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Benedict.
Hello, guys. How are you doing? Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Benedict Zulu. I am the cybersecurity specialist here at Impactful Solution Specialist. I facilitate most of the cybersecurity courses, and I do it using different vendors, not just specializing in one partner, but doing it with EC Council, doing it with also Counter and CertNexus, which supply most of our cybersecurity courses.
Thanks, Benny. Appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you around skills and training and certifications. So if we just go into the session today and the flow, we're going to talk a few things, but one would be, the first one's going to be social media attacks. Then we look at mobile device attacks. Then we look at some cloud storage attacks. I'm not sure about that word, but anyway, we'll use it because you guys said it was the right word to use. And then we're going to go into conversation around roles, skills, roles, and certifications, which I think is key. I mean, that's the takeout for today. So let's kick off, Camille, with social media attacks. Tell me a little bit more.
Yes, all right. So as you can see, I mean, just from the illustration of our presentation, there are various different attacks that we all have to keep aware of. Oh, apologies for that. There are various different attacks that we have to sort of keep ourselves upskilled and on the lookout for, ways in which we can prevent them. And this session is purely to educate the public and inform them what is cybersecurity. It's not a very complex topic, but it is a very burning issue right now, especially with us moving from the pandemic all across to online. So looking after our information, looking after my clients' information, looking after my friends' information, it's never become more crucial and important than it is right now at this moment. All right.
How do you identify the hack? I mean, how do you know that you've been hacked?
Well, look, Linda, there's various different methods.
If we look at the slide there.
Yeah, various methods that hackers use. But I'm going to speak to you guys about 3 particular scams that the hackers are predominantly using. Now, one of which is phishing, the other is vishing, and the other is smishing. Now, your phishing, which is PH, those are your hacks that come by via an email. All right. Your vishing are your voice calls where an individual is pretending to be part of a prominent organization and is gathering information about your address, your date of birth. They just want to update their records and make sure that they got all of your information on hand, right? And then the last scam is smishing. Now, smishing would be those SMSs that you would get, and I'm sure everybody on this call has gotten an SMS where you want a family inheritance all the way in the UK.
Yes.
So, I mean, if that were the case, I think I'm a millionaire already. But anyway, cybersecurity has opened my mind up and opened my eyes up to how I look and view things. So those are key aspects or
Yes.
key methods in which they use, right? And
that's the terminology, you know, in the background. I mean, as a layperson, I wouldn't want to know phishing, smishing, and vishing.
100%. I mean, when I first read it, I thought of phishing, first thing that popped in my mind. But anyway, it was pronounced very, very differently, right?
Yeah.
The other techniques that I can share with the crowd on this presentation is you must also be on the lookout for official company branded format. So when you receive that mail, make sure it is from an official company with a correct branding. Make sure that the links come from a social media platform. Also, you need to recognize the anomalies in that link. You know, sometimes we do have a few illustrations as we go to the slides. So I will definitely share those examples with each person that's on this call. But those are predominantly some of the techniques or methods that I'm sharing with you guys is double check. Make sure you look at the email address, look at the link, look at the information inside, look at where it's coming from. If it came from a friend, perhaps pick up the phone and call that friend and confirm that it came from a valid source. And that actually works because I was somebody attempted to hack me, and I'm old-fashioned. I like to pick up the phone and call a person, and I immediately called that person, and they said, "Camille, what are you talking about? That was not me." Immediately, radar. It was a red flag. So I brought it to the company attention. I brought it to our IT attention, asked them to block the mail, and we proceeded. And since then, I've been seeing so many different hacks coming through. So these are just a few things that I wanted to share with the guys on the call.
No, absolutely. And I mean, there's slides that we'll share as well if we want, you know, post the session if people want them. I mean, you have some of the tactics that you spoke about, you know, urgent requests, you can't prove their identity. I see John's posted in the chat, love it, adopt the posture of zero trust. And then some elements of, you know, when you see something like this, just be heightened in terms of your consciousness around it. You know, the tools, you talk about tools, and when we were briefing, you talked about tools to protect against hackers, things like social media, firewall, endpoint security, detection. Tell me a little bit about that, and then I know Benny's going to do a demo for us.
Yes. Okay. So, before that, one of the other topics is how to prevent it. Now, the main purpose of this awareness session is to let everybody know cybersecurity is an ongoing training session. You have to be upskilling every single time. It's not going to be modules that are going to follow every single year and just going to copy the same format, because our hackers are learning to evolve and we got to evolve with them. And that's why it's so important that the training that you get on understanding how to recognize these anomalies, how to recognize these above mentioned attacks, and what to look for. What are the red flags that you need to pop in your mind when you see them? And now going to the tools that you just mentioned, each company has firewalls. Everybody knows about firewalls and you know, McAfee and all these various protections on their computers. But you've also got to understand that the endpoint security also has detection and responses. It also creates alerts. So it notifies you, tells you, hey, this came from an unknown source and could predominantly be malicious malware. So immediately when the flag comes up, your radar should come up, and then you should start looking for key triggers or key elements in that message to see if it is an hack or if it came from a legit source.
Yeah, and it's almost in a way, it's kind of obvious if you think about it, but in the flow of work, you see these emails and you really just think, oh, I'll be fine, you know, but in fact, it's not. So there is some obvious everyday type things that you could apply. Benny, you're going to do a demo for us. Tell us what you're going to do, Benny.
All right. The demo that I'm going to be demonstrating.
You're going to share, hey?
Yes, I will share my screen and show everybody how the demo actually works. This is just a simple demo of how guys would create a fake email, an email attack that basically will come in that points to a fake website in order to steal people's login credentials on the system. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to take off the screen.
And this is maybe just a warning: is please don't do what Benny's doing. He's showing us.
Yes, please.
Mighty Thor.
Be
You should
very
have put
careful.
you should have put a PG warning on here, Benny.
Yes, I think that would have been more ideal. Okay, this tool, and to create all of this is very simple. You have something as simple as Kali Linux, which is an OS that everybody can download and actually play around with. It has all the tools that we normally use when we are demonstrating and showing the attacks. And you'll see that it's a very simple attack. It's a social engineering attack. This tool has a lot of tools built into it that are normally used for pen testing, built into this individual operating system. Now, so I'm going to be doing a simple website attack, which is going to be doing credential harvesting. Okay.
Good Lord.
And I'm going to be cloning a website. So I'm going to be doing a site cloner there, which then the system asks me, where must it return the information when it receives a connection from someone? It's already pointing to this Kali Linux IP address. So I'm just going to leave it there and press enter to allow it to go in. And it asks me, what website do you want to clone? You can clone any website as long as it has a login screen. Okay.
Wow.
So I'm going to use something as simple as Facebook. Okay.
Yep.
Now, as I've connected with Facebook, it is telling me that as soon as someone connects to this particular system, it will start showing that information directly here. Okay. Now, creating the attack is actually the easiest part. The difficult part is convincing people to actually connect to this website. Now, that's where you get those emails that has links that tells you that you've won and get returns and all of that.
Yeah.
SMSs with some of those links that comes in. Okay. So I'm going to pretend as if like I've already received the link. I'm just going to point straight to this particular system, 192.168. Okay, and as you can see here, I now look like I have a Facebook login screen. Okay. The last time we practiced something like this, it was right at the end of our end of the year function.
You're getting some serious reactions, Benny.
We wanted to check if everybody were listening when we actually did cyber training in the company. So at the end of our end of the year function, I sent out an email to everyone using this particular tag saying, here are the end of the year function pictures. Even people who were not there were very eager to click on. So I'm just going to put in some fake logins here. I'm going to say Benedict Zulu @gmail.com, and I'm going to put password 1 @1234. Okay. So as soon as the person clicks login, the screen does not take them anywhere. It looks like it just refreshed. But if I jump back to my Kali Linux machine, it shows me that someone has connected to this particular attack. And as I scroll through to see, was it able to capture the person's credentials, I'll be able to point out the username and password that was initially used by that particular user who logged into my site. Right. And this is an attack that I can do where I pass it on to as many people as possible, which allows me to capture as many credentials as possible. And it's able to save them as a text file directly here on Kali Linux.
No, that's insane. That's
how simple it is.
Yeah.
That's how simple it is for them to be able to steal people's login credentials. You could receive this as an email at work where someone is asking you to check an invoice that they've basically sent to you that you have to log into a particular site to actually do this. Or you could receive this as an SMS that you can actually use where you connect via a phone to connect to this particular system. Okay. I'm currently using it locally on my network, but if I wanted to allow it to connect externally, I'll then publish this fake website of mine using my own web server that I can build it. And then I can capture as many credentials as I want to within this particular space of time.
That's insane. That's, and I mean, yeah, there's John's obviously made some comments around John being the CIO is not human and a bot. Gosh, Paul's saying, yeah, make sure you don't have the same password everywhere. It's actually, it's crazy, Benny, how it looks simple, you know, but I mean, obviously this is what you do for a living. So you teach people how to avoid this. But you know, people do this for a living. So yeah, thanks, Grant, the MFA. Yep. And Benny, moving on to mobile device attacks, you know, give us a high level overview of typically, you know, what do we see with mobile device attacks? You know, this is literally social media, but what do we see from the mobile device and from your experience?
Now, a lot of the time with mobile devices, you get contacted by numbers that you are unaware where these numbers are from.
Yes.
So I'm going to show you a simple tool that we use to actually find out where numbers coming from, where we can actually search for this number and see if it's actually published on any social media site or it's showing up anywhere on the internet. And this is through a very simple tool called Phone Info.
Is it similar to Truecaller?
It's a tool that's particularly similar to Truecaller, but it has to be within a registered country that actually works with Phone Info. Yeah. So
you're going to show us now, hey Benny, how to pick up
I'm going to show you how the tool works within this particular system now.
Okay. Well, everybody on the call is just going to go and run and grab wine and vodka and all kinds of things just to get over the.
Okay. So I've already pre-configured Phone Infobia directly into my system, and I've installed it into my Kali Linux. Now, this is one of those tools that doesn't come pre-installed as part of Kali Linux. You can use it with just the command system, but it actually has a GUI interface that makes it simple for everyone to connect. Now, I'm going to click on the GUI, which allows us to get a much better preview there. So what I've done now is initiated the server that we're actually going to use for this. And it showed me there that it's going to be using port 5000 as a connection. Okay. So now what I need to do is just connect to the system. To the host. Okay. And now I can take any phone number that I want to search. Now I've gone and selected one of EC Council's number that they use basically for you to contact them. But if you have any number that contacts you via WhatsApp, that contacts you via any messaging system, you can actually search for information via this particular app. Okay. So I'm just going to put in that number 2341. Okay, which I'll then tell the system to search for this particular number. So now what it's done, it's scanned for information for this particular number. I'm able to see this particular number and basically its origin that I can actually put in. And then if I go to Google search there, it allows me to run Google search links that will look at where does this number ever appear within any particular system. I can search just through the point of looking at it from the internet. So what it's done now, it's run a search to Google, searching for that particular number. So if there's any website that they've created and they've used this number, it'll be able to pull information and show me the website that has that. Same thing with social media there. It will search if there's any number on Facebook or anything like that that has actually used this particular number as its contact information. Now, I can also use it in a form of a South African number.
Is this something that you would recommend everybody does, Benny? Go in and into this phone in Foga and put your number in and see where your number possibly is being used inappropriately.
If you have a number that you do not trust, I've noticed now that I started getting contact from people on WhatsApp.
Yes.
And it's numbers that I don't have on my phone, so they show up as abnormal numbers where a person is just trying to contact and speak to me. And you can tell that it's not a South African number as well. It will be a number that starts with like 23. It's more like a USA type of number.
Okay.
So if I take our number and I run my search, I'm able to pick up that this is a South African number. It shows that the number actually exists within our system. And again, it will then go through the process of running the different search that I actually would look for to see if anyone's using this number on either on social media or on any website. Okay. Reason why I like researching particular sort of like information from me, I like to see what type of footprint am I leaving on the internet.
Yeah.
So I'm able to see what people are able to see in terms of information that I allow them to actually see, where my number would pop up, would show up that I'm actually using it on something like LinkedIn. And you want to worry if your number is showing up on things like Twitter, Facebook, where people can actually use it in that particular manner. So this is just a simple tool that you can actually run and install that can actually go through the process of finding out numbers.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Benny. Sure. I mean, it's fascinating that, if you just do this very uncomplicated, your caution is Twitter, Facebook, so go and check and see where your numbers are appearing, where it technically shouldn't be appearing, hey? Yeah.
You just want to be cautious because that's how they get hold of your number and actually start using it. So you just want to see what type of footprint you are leaving in the world in terms of what people see about you. Yeah.
Thanks, Benny. That's great. Again, I'm quite nervous about getting access to this. Grant and Carla are looking and saying, I regularly scan for my ID number. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Reshenn, let's talk a little bit about the business side. So we've talked social media, we've talked the mobile. If we're looking at cloud storage attacks, how secure is data in the cloud? And guide me through your slides, Reshenn.
Okay, can you share my screen?
Are you going to share them? Okay, go for it.
Are you going to share it?
No, you share. Go for it. You go for it. Share.
Right. So I think, look, the first thing I want to talk about is, yes, with regards to cloud security and how secure your data is in the cloud. Look, we can talk for days on that particular subject. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it at a non-technical talk and something simple for everybody to understand. There may be technical people on the call and maybe not as well. So you need to look at a couple of things, and I will discuss this in a breach example that I'm going to showcase to you. So the way hackers work nowadays, or we call them threat actors, or the actual organizations that exist with CEOs and analysts and full teams. I mean, they literally work on the dark web like a business, and they are consistently purchasing and developing the latest in threats. And it's a scary space. I'll talk to you more about that shortly as well. But when it comes to data in your cloud environment, most service providers protect the data at its entry and exit points, and then you have to look after the data whilst it's inside your cloud environment, unless you're utilizing some of the extended security services, which most companies, especially medium, large, not so much corporate companies, don't use, and some corporates as well. So what you need to understand is when a threat enters your environment, it can come in as non-malicious, and I'll show you what that looks like shortly. But once it's in, more than often your firewalls, your antiviruses, your systems don't detect these types of things. And I'll explain to you how they come in shortly. But once they're inside, they start to move what we call laterally, and then they start to do what they are meant to do. And these things are more than often not detected by some of the tools that exist, or the tools that you've implemented or think that you have in your environment. Okay, so let me, any further questions?
No, go for it.
Okay, so what we need to look at is, what makes threats prominent in the digital era. Now, I'm going to storyize the whole thing. So I, prior to lockdown and COVID, I was in Northern Europe working with some of the analysts, level 1 analysts and specialists that work with Interpol and Europol, to not just work to identify threats, but to catch the actual criminals. And I was fortunate to be in one of the high-level security operations centers. And what we need to understand, okay, what they've shown me actually, and this is the scary part, and I think everybody knows this to a degree. In Africa and South Africa, across Africa in that fact, we adopt a lot of technology across the 4IR spectrum, Internet of Things, big data, so on and so on and so on. And what we lack, and I've seen this firsthand, I've worked for 2 of the biggest system integrators in Africa. What we lack is the ability to secure that data as we integrate all of these systems and make sure that the security protocols are all in place. I mean, now we have developers in AI, we have developers in simple things like big data, data analytics. There's so much of data that's sitting, I would say, in environments that hackers can exploit so easily. It is scary. I mean, before I got into security, I was into big data. And I myself, if I was a malicious person, I would have had access to data in banks, in petrochemical companies. My teams would have had it. And if threat actors actually got a hold of certain people, they probably would have given in to expose that data. It's really, really scary.
Yeah.
So basically what the attackers or what the hackers actually do is, and this came out of something that I've seen firsthand, is they use Africa as a playground, a training ground. They come in, they they develop threats, multiple threat signatures, which is different types of threats. I'll talk to you about that shortly. And they play here. They look at how it works. Is it successful? Is it not? Do we need to improve here and there? And then deploy it to the rest of the world. Wow. And that's why we see a lot of threats happening. You'll find a lot being exposed in the news. However, you'll find that there's a lot that's not being exposed in public media. And I get called quite often to assist in advising against some of those threats. So I know what happens there.
So what's the next part of the story? You talked about the evolution of it. Yeah.
Yes. So first thing you need to understand is, the cyber threat evolution in itself. So if you actually look at the evolution of threats and the evolution of systems and tools and intelligence to mitigate those threats. So in the early days, you had viruses, and those were kind of more funny viruses. You'll find a Pac-Man going across your screen, eating up your data, and you'll find a bouncing ball around. So it was more damage rather than, malicious in terms of stealing data. Yeah, sure, it was there, but it was only there at your high-level institutions like government and so on. The most common attacks was viruses, and then you'll have an antivirus to actually protect against those. Now, as you can see there, from 2000 to 2010, that advanced further from malware. Now, here's a point in time where the internet started to get used more and more often. I mean, in the early 1990s, some people actually, I didn't have a phone at that point in time. I don't want to give away my age, but yeah. So people started to use mobile devices. They started to use the internet, PCs, home PCs, and so on. And that's where malware was developed. That infected through utilization of communication tools. It utilized different URL domains and so on and so on. I'm not going to go through the details of that. Then you get 0 days. 0 days essentially are threat signatures or threats that actually happen now. They would develop something, and the process of deploying those threats can take time. It can take a year even. But when it attacks, it'll be a brand new attack. No one knows what to do with it. It's something that they haven't experienced before. So they call that a 0 day. And then we have what we call advanced persistent threats, which is what we face mostly in Africa right now. These are, as I mentioned to you, full-blown organizations, and they develop these threats like we develop software and tools and so on. And in that circumstance, you need security products and security platforms. I won't go into those details right now in essence of time, but we'd have those solutions put into place to deal with those types of threats. Not successfully very often, though. Now we are at an age where we have what we call cyber weapons and advanced targeted attacks. Just to give you a quick example of that, there's something called Stuxnet. Using that as a common example, people would have heard of it or maybe not. It's where I won't name the countries. There's 2 countries, one Western, one Eastern, and the Western countries decided to attack a nuclear plant in the eastern side of the world. And that threat, being a cyber threat, physically affected a nuclear plant where it almost melted down. And you can imagine what that would have caused, right? And that's happening more and more often right now. Hospitals, it happens where you can have a mining shaft that can be attacked and people killed. There's so many ways that cyber weapons work nowadays. And then the rise of managed service providers and your managed detection response. And now you see everybody has always developing a security operations center. That used to be more in your large banks and your government institutions. Now you find lots of organizations enabling security operations centers where they do a myriad of things. But again, in essence of time, I won't go into all those details.
But essentially what we're looking at also, and we'll talk about this just now, is the skills that people need to the security operations center, the skills you need to counteract the cyber hacks and that's something that we'll talk about just now. It's actually, and I mean there's quite a lot of comment in the chat on this. It's quite scary, to be honest with you, because you wonder where it's going to go, and as we keep evolving on the internet and through digital transformation, it's going to be interesting to see where this transpires. Hence the skill sets around cybersecurity.
Just to mention that, just to mention something. So I looked after State Information Technology Agency, Office of Chief Justice, City of Tshwane. There's quite a number of public sector organizations and private sector organizations that I work with. And more than often, when we deployed advanced technology, the OEM, whoever the OEMs were, trained the individuals, but I promise you something, after they've received that training, people are still completely lost, not knowing what to do. You have to move beyond product training. It has to be agnostic across all platforms and beyond. You've got to think like a hacker. Skills are absolutely important. That is beyond technology.
Interesting, think like a hacker.
Okay.
And I hear you've got a story to tell us.
Yes, I do have a story to tell you. So this is a kind of a hybrid cloud breach environment. Look, I can talk about this for hours and maybe days. So I'm going to give you we worked on this for we worked on this for quite some time. So I'm just going to give you the I will call it the lowdown. So basically, an attacker will have attack preparation. So they'll gather the data, they'll prepare a strategy. An attack doesn't happen instantaneously. It can take a year, 2 years, even 3 years of planning before the attack actually happens, right? So it depends on the level of attack. Depends on what the outcome is expected by the hacker. Obviously, the higher the outcome, the more the planning that takes place, right? So essentially, what they did was in this systems integrated environment, I can't tell you who, I can't tell you where. I'm sworn to secrecy on it. I get locked up for that, literally. So anyway, how they got in is they used non-malware types of threats, and what that means is it's not known signatures on. So for example, you'll have an antivirus tool, you'll have other tools, I'm not going to talk about that right now, that you can hunt for threats with, right? So you can plug in the signatures and you can go and look for these things. Now, what happens is in the world of, in the dark web, right now, what the threat actors actually do is they buy these advanced threats, these APT threats, and they re-engineer it. well, they reverse engineer it first, they re-engineer it, and what they do is they break it down to different fragments. So we call those cryptos. So cryptos are part of a whole of something, right? So it'll be in tiny little fragments. It's like if I'm walking into a bank, I can't carry a gun in, but I can carry maybe a trigger in at one time, and I can carry a duck that's somewhere, carry a bullet in, and so on and so on. That's what these guys do. So it's hidden, it's encrypted, it gets in, your stuff doesn't detect. It's designed to do that, right? Now, and I won't get into that. It's a whole, I can talk again for 2 or 3 hours on that, but I won't get into that. Now, what they also do is, they also do a social engineering attack as well, where they actually get people inside an organization to work with them. I mean, you'll get a disgruntled employee, someone not paid enough, and so on. And they'll work at these people, and eventually they'll pay them off and say, right, and this circumstance had happened, and it was 3 people. So,
wow.
yeah. So what actually happened was when the attack took place, this organization, they employed a forensics company to help them, and they sat there for 2 weeks. And this is where the skills part comes in. They sat there for 2 weeks, and I think they paid them for pretty much not much besides just collecting data, right? But because they didn't catch the people, they didn't do much from what we've seen until we came.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about that. Now, essentially, what would happen is they'll get a hold of someone inside an organization or get a hold of a PC. There's many ways to do it. They can do it remotely, but the best way is to have someone inside that's available. And that's when they actually do the command and they do the control of those systems. And what happened here was they actually, there's 3 ways that they got in, and 3 people through 3 different methods. This was a ransomware attack. But what they did was they utilized a dormant cybersecurity antivirus system. So some of these antivirus systems has features where you can deploy software from a central point out to the organization. So that's what they used inside the organization to deploy threats to multiple environments. That's one way that they did it. And there's a couple of others. Again, in essence of time, I won't get into all of those things. But now, once they're inside the organization, you have what you call lateral movement. And lateral movement means that it's very difficult for your firewalls, because it's already in the system, right? So it's difficult for firewalls and antiviruses and things to actually detect, unless you have some advanced network detection. I won't get into that. Even in those circumstances as well, if it's seemingly non-violation of anything, then that's how they get in, right? So it's kind of hidden inside the organization. It's being normalized. This could have been running in the organization for 2 to 3 years. So it's kind of normalized. Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Now, so you'll see there, the immediate attack is, there's no immediate damage. It is silent. When they attack, it's rapid. It's quick, right? And very, very quick. And most of the time it happens over a weekend or after hours, where especially on a weekend or especially on a holiday, or maybe during times where you have resources that are minimally available. Plus, you'd have the inside intel will tell people, look, there's a holiday coming up or something is happening. Maybe this is the time to attack. There's a whole bunch of things that happen there. It's really, really a social engineered attack. Now, basically, what they also do is when they perform this attack, they also leave a backdoor, available so that they can escape once the attack is done. But here, what they did was they encrypted these environments, not only in their physical servers, but it also crept into their hybrid cloud environment. So literally, this is a provider of hosted services, of cloud services. And they had to then disclose it to those customers that that their data was hosted onto, those cloud environments. It wasn't publicly mentioned because of the sensitivity of it. But yeah, they did enter into the cloud environment, encrypted a whole bunch of data there. It cost them 30 million. When I sent it to, that's when we got involved. And in 3 days, we managed to catch the guys. We managed to understand what the threat is all about. What we found out is, first of all, that ransomware attack, the algorithm on it was literally unhackable. You cannot decrypt it. It was done. They had to pay the ransom. They simply had to do it. So you don't win all of these things. But in 3 days, we found out a whole bunch of things, and we locked up 3 people.
Good.
Okay. So again, I'm not going to get into it any further too much. And I know in the essence of time, but essentially, there are challenges in our environments in order to do these types of things. That is why they spend so much money with this forensics organization, and they got nothing. They got some stuff out of them, but not much. And the reasons why is because you'll see at the top here, you have challenges that we have with some of our talent or gaps in those talents. And sometimes people are not to blame. I mean, it's Hackers are smart. You need to have the best in the world working with the best in the world. And if we're not the best in the world, you need to get there, right? So again, in essence of time, I'm not going to go through this entire thing, but I'm just saying to you that in order for us to get to where we need to go, we need to have the relevant skills enabled, practical skills, ongoing skills, sharpened like a sword on both edges, continuously, must be part of your KPIs to train against the world's greatest threats. And that's something I know we're offering with, with Impactful as well. So that's important.
Reshenn, that's fascinating, and I think, yeah, you've got so much to share, and thank you for that. It's also it's actually very scary, to be honest with you, just sitting here as Josephine public, But I suppose, I mean, the big question is to Benny and Kamil, how do we train people? What skills do we need that we can at least have a chance of counteracting the cybersecurity, this whole cyber crime thing? What kind of skills, give us a sense, and I'll just bring up some slides. So tell me a little bit, because this for me is the interesting part, is how do we train in our organizations to get the right skills, at least so we're meeting these guys and girls head on. What's your view, Kamil?
Well, okay. Let's just talking about just the slide. So purely for illustrative purposes, we created a career path that we know will address and tackle those three challenges that we just spoke about now.
Yeah.
But this is just an example of a career path that we at ISS can actually create. It's not limited to just this. We have a vast amount of offerings that we can, certification paths that we can, how can I say, put together and create one sort of career path to suit your organization's needs. Remember, we do not have a blanket approach where one size fits everybody. Each person, each company has their own needs. So we can address that. And that's the great part about ISS, is that we have all the necessary weapons and tools to combat all these hackers. And this is just a typical example. And the benefit from these career paths, Linda, if you could move on to the next slide.
I want you to weave into the convo also between you and Benny the time it takes. This is not something that you flick on and somebody's a cybersecurity engineer in three days. And then also weave in the qualification criteria. When you guys are talking about people need police clearances and that to go on this training, tell me a little bit about that as well.
Sure. Benny, would you like to add a few points on the course?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Okay, as far as the courses start, we can build you up from initially a beginner person who's basically just was an ordinary technician and wants to get involved into cybersecurity. I mean, it is very key for you to have a good understanding of your network infrastructure, at least good fundamentals when it comes to a network infrastructure system. So you must already be in an IT environment and already have some form of certification in the IT side. Okay. Now these courses, we start off with courses that can build you up from a point of a beginner, where you have things like Cyber Safe, which is it's a one-day course that helps you with initially getting understanding of the terminology that's actually going to be used and understanding the environment that you're actually going to be playing around with. Okay. The Computer Security Plus course is normally an ideal startup point for you to actually have in order for you to actually understand the fundamentals of someone who's working in cybersecurity. It also allows you to understand that there's a step ladder that you need to go through, and you're at the beginning of that particular step ladder. Now, there we have a 5-day course that comes with practical labs as well that you normally go in. EC Council also has a course, Certified Network Defender. Similar to Security Plus, it's a good building fundamental course that normally starts you off, which is also a 5-day course that also has practical labs that you actually go through. Okay. And then once you normally do the labs, we help you with getting yourself ready to go write the exam. And then from then on, we can build you up into specific career. If you just move to the next slide for me.
Yeah, talk me through talk through the roles as well. I mean, these roles are also interesting and trending. So
we have different roles that you'd normally want to end up in terms of cybersecurity. Just like IT is very vast, you need to find the perfect role that kind of like suits your skills. Now, for instance, if you're a network engineering, you normally are a person who has very good network fundamentals, a bit of Cisco certification, where you understand the networking side a lot more smoother than if we were to look at someone who's working towards more of being an analyst, a cyber analyst who more or less analyze your viruses and your code systems and how you'd actually look at it. Okay. We know most cybersecurity systems involve a vulnerability assessment system that allows you to detect vulnerabilities within your environment, so that you're able to actually jump in and actually work through those. And again, the courses that we go through with starting with Security Plus, working your way to pen testing plus, for if you decide to go with a CompTIA path, they have Security Plus, pen testing plus, cyber analysis, all the way to practitioner. And then with EC Council, you normally start with certified network defender. You move on to being going on to certified hacker, and then from certified
A
hacker,
certified hacker.
yes, certified ethical hacker. Please, I need to ensure that
Just
people
for
get
clarity,
the message of the ethical part, because they tend to be excited to join my class, but with no ethics built in mind, where I have to remind them that they're here for ethical reasons. Now, a class like the ethical hacker class, the certified ethical hacker class, we teach you nothing but offensive material there. So we don't teach you anything defensive within that particular course. It's meant to show you how hackers think, how hackers basically
what you showed us earlier.
Yes. Where on certified network defender, we were focusing more on trying to help you understand some of the defensive mechanism that you actually put into place. Now, then you have courses like forensics, where we're looking at investigating a hack and looking at how you can actually gather information on how you were being hacked. You'll have incident response, where they go through the process of collecting information, all the way to presenting it in a case, in a court of law. And it will go through the process of how you should handle information and to make sure you don't tamper with information, so that it's actually viable and actually presentable within a court of law in cases of incident handler. And then you build your way all the way to Chief Security Information Officer, which is basically the very top course that you normally get, where you're now basically working towards managing a cyber security environment with a lot of technicians behind you.
No, that's great. Thanks, Benny. Camille, yes, I see your hands up. Please go for it. Feel free.
Just to touch on and add on to what Benny said. So obviously that those are specific certification parts, but bear in mind that there's no one shoe that fits all. So we can customize, we can use a combination of the various vendors that we are in partnership with to create that sort of learning path or learning journey for your staff members. And not just to mention that they're going to receive the certification of completing all those courses, but it also opens up the opportunities into, if you move to the next slide, right?
The careers. These are
the exactly. And it's an entry point for people that want to pursue a career in the cybersecurity platform. So it's not a very difficult one, and we help you place the building blocks in front and help you climb that ladder to get to that expert level. However, it is consistently training. We have to be in front of you and your customers, find out what's your needs, what are the some of the pressing matters that you want to deal with, and those are on a personal call. So yes, definitely.
So you use customer case studies like Reshenn showed potentially, and that would be part of the training and that.
100%.
Yeah, guys, it's been fascinating. Thank you so much. And Reshenn, I suppose the aspiration is we need more of you, hey? So that's the challenge out to the team and to the L&D folks. Come on, guys, we need more Reshenns. Preventing 100%. 30 million hacks.
100%. Just to add on the benefit to everybody on this call, just to let you know that we are going to be creating our ISS cybersecurity community using everybody that's on this platform. Now, the good news here is you guys are
They're not going to hack you.
No, I've got Benny and I've got Reshenn to protect me, so I'm safe. So the good news is with our community, you guys will be the first to know what's in market, what new versions come out, what promos and campaigns we are running. And if you do not want to be part of that forum, by all means, you can notify us. We can remove you.
Feel free to exit.
But
Yeah, I
there's
think
so
that's a
much
great
benefits.
idea. Yeah.
There's so much
Yeah.
benefits that we're going to add to you guys' lives. And we know that you're bombarded with a lot of emails, but we're not going to bombard you with nonsense. All
Good.
100% tool or tricks and things we know are going to change your life or your environment that you work in.
No, that's great. Thanks, Camille. And it's great. Probably it's a great point to end. Maybe just Reshenn, last word from you. You know, the art of what's possible for somebody who wants to. And thank you, Wendy. Thank you for joining us. It's lovely to see you on the call. Reshenn, just from you, what's the art of possible? Someone that wants to go into this as a career. You know, you talked about doing pre-COVID travels and that type of stuff.
Just let you know, I don't come out of a technical environment at all. It's more business oriented. In fact, I never studied IT. I got into it by working with it, right? So, you know, it's not scary. It's actually not scary. You know, people think cybersecurity, you know, it's scary. It's actually, I call it a sexy subject because there's so much of content, there's so much of job readiness, there's so much of training available. The thing is to, first of all, to understand where you're headed. What is your passion in this? Is it business orientated? Is it technical orientated? Is it advisory? Understand your passion, understand yourself, because there's an opportunity in every one of those paths. And we can create and tailor a guided path for you and where you want to go. And the best thing is to, first of all, understand the thing. Go the short courses, by the way, you know, some people think, I want to learn in 5 days. Trust me, you can learn a lot. And there's a lot of supporting, I would say, videos that you get with that afterwards. So you can go deeper and deeper into it. So it's not just a 5-day course that you go into. It can become a 6-month thing. Understand where you want to go. And then from there, excel into those particular areas. The best thing to do is, you know, most important thing is to understand how to defend. If you can understand how to defend, it's the first line of defense is defend. So if you want to get into cybersecurity technical, learn to defend and then learn the ethical hacking aspect of it. And learning defense is easier. And there's lots and lots of scope available. Trust me, I know, I've seen it. I can tell you of places right now off the top of my head that need people right now.
That's brilliant. And that's the whole point. Thank you so much, Reshenn. Thank you for joining us. Benedict, I think you're going to be busy training a lot of defending cyber engineers. And Kamil, thank you as always. Your insights and you know, just what you know about the product and your passion in this has been fantastic. So thanks everybody. No major tough questions in the chat, but it was a fascinating session. So thanks everyone. Have a good evening, and we'll see you again hopefully in 2 weeks' time on the next collab.